Joyce Dallas.
Thank you for having me here today. And I know we're going to talk about adolescent mental health issues in reference to adolescents. But before we even get started to talk about that, let's think about what's going on with an adolescent. During the adolescent years, what are some of the things that they're having to deal with, even before having to deal with the mental health issues that they're confronted with later on, or maybe during this time? First of all, as an adolescent, they have to deal with a lot of transitional things that occur in their life. For instance, physical development. Their bodies are going through changes in this constant transition. You have the males, their bodies, they might be getting taller, their voices are getting deeper, and you have the females where they're changing as well. They're developing, they're getting curves that they weren't aware of, and they start getting looks. Then comes the sexual change where there's a greater attraction to the opposite sex, and as the body changes, that comes along with it. You have emotional change that occurs, hormonal changes. So the adolescents, they have so much to deal with, and that's just a few of the things that they have to deal with. But I wanted to set the foundation to let you know that they're already dealing with a lot of changes occurring in their life, let alone the mental health issues that they have to deal with. I want to mention a quote to you. It says, an estimated 1 in 20 children has a significant mental health problem. Okay, I want you to listen to that, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about mental health issues, what's considered mental health, and what's considered mental health problems. And I'm going to give you a verbatim definition of this so it can stick to your mind. Mental health, successful performance of mental health, of mental functions resulting in productive activities, fulfilling relationships with other people, and the ability to change and to cope with adversity. So pretty much is a normal functioning level, whereas if you are confronted with major issues within their lives, then the students or the adolescents are able to deal with it, or we're all able to deal with those things. But when we have difficulty, that's when there's a mental health illness or problem. And the definition of that is diagnosable mental disorders that are characterized by alterations in thinking, mood, or behavior, or a combination thereof associated with distress or impaired functioning. Pretty much what that is saying is that when students, I work mainly with students now, so when I say adolescents, that'll be used interchangeably in reference to students as well, vice versa. Now, when I work with students, I found out if there are students and they're doing everything that they need to do within the school arena, then there's no problem. Therefore, they will not receive any reports to their parents, from the teacher, or from the school in general. Now, if the mental health is there and they're functioning within the norms, then there's not going to be a problem. The problem comes in when there's problems that enter the student's life and they're unable to deal with it, and they're unable to be productive, they're unable to actually adjust to those problems that they incur. And as a result of that, that's when mental health becomes an issue of concern. And the parents usually can tell when their child has changed and is not the norm anymore. And some of the specific disorders that I wanted to touch bases on, I mentioned several, but I'm going to touch bases on 3. The first one is depression. Second one, anxiety disorder, substance abuse disorder. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on those 3, but some of the other ones that are high on reference to adolescents include conduct disorder and oppositional defiant disorder. Those particular, I hate to group those together, but I'm going to mention this. Those are when you can tell that based on their behavior in the school arena, you can tell if the child is having difficulty because things are not working well for them. The grades could be affected, as long with the other areas I'm going to discuss as well. But these in reference to oppositional defiant. If you say left, you want them to go left, they might want to go right. It's a little bit more detailed than that information, but that's just to let you know the layman's terms so you can understand what happens with conduct and oppositional. That's when some students do not, or adolescents, are not inclined to do what they're required to do. Learning disabilities and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Pretty much with hyperactivity disorder, when there's we talked about that on last week. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see that session. But hyperactivity disorder, when sometimes it interferes with the performance of the student in the school environment, whereas there's that inability to do what they need to do, stay on task, and also that constant need to move, that extra energy level. But with ADD, attention deficit, it might be that they might not have the extra energy level, but there's a difficulty to stay on task and get things done. They're easily directed in another area opposed to staying on target. Eating disorder. The eating disorder is more pronounced with females than males, but males also have eating disorder as well. And some of the eating disorders would be like bulimia and anorexia nervosa. With anorexia nervosa, a lot of times it's the image, it's the personal image of the adolescent in particular that we're concerned about. They think at one point thin was in, and sometimes I think a lot of adolescents think that thin is still in. So therefore, they do whatever it takes to maintain that appearance. And in their mind, even if they're real thin, they think that they need to stop eating, reduce their eating habits in order to maintain that thin image. And with bulimia, what occurs with the students is sometimes they might do whatever it takes again, but they would actually perform certain acts such as regurgitating food that once they've consumed it, they can do it that way, or else elimination by taking laxatives. And whatever it takes to get the food that they have consumed out of their bodies so that it doesn't become weight on their bodies. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to the first three that I mentioned, the first one being depression. And with depression, there are several things that occur with depression and some of the signs that parents need to be aware of when they have teens that might be depressed. And going back to what I said initially about mental health, you can tell if you really pay attention to your adolescent what is going on with them. If they're deviating anywhere from the norm, if they're not doing everything that they normally would do, and it's not a behavior that you're familiar with them actually performing. And one of the things is that as far as depression, it's like some of the signs are reduced appetite. When they have a decrease in their appetite, then therefore there might be a decrease in weight. There might be a weight loss. Same thing on the opposite side. If there's an increase in appetite, therefore there's an increase in weight gain. And those are just some of the things that occur with them. And also, if the student used to enjoy going to the basketball game, used to enjoy hanging out with the family, hanging out with friends, and things of that nature, and all of a sudden they're no longer interested in doing that. And let's say that your favorite food for your child might be pizza, and that adolescent said, I'm no longer interested in pizza, I don't want pizza. Then that's a sign right there that something's not right. So it's a red flag. So if your child is demonstrating something of that nature, it's not necessarily just depression, but there's other things as well that can be associated with that. But with depression, sometimes there's a slowing in response, a slowing in interest altogether, where some of the students or adolescents would like to just stay to themselves, not go out, isolate themselves from others. And this is not just depression among adolescents, but depression in general. Some of the things that if a parent knows what their student or what their child is interested in and what has been a change, and that's a red flag, then maybe they need to talk to someone or else actually talk to the child and ask the adolescent, what is going on? Is everything okay with you? So those are just some simple things that you can do as a parent can do as a lay person to ask questions and